Yo, what's going on, guys? It's me, That One Weep here, back with part 12, the newest addition to the series of What If Subaru was Sukuna's vessel. Now, just a short summary since it's been a while since the last part, I will remind you that we ended with Subaru spawning, waking up, after his meeting with the Witch of Greed, Echidna, outside of the tomb that Ryuzu Mayor had first sent him into after arriving in the sanctuary. Subaru would be awakened with strands of silver and hair as blue as the sky in front of him. As he gazes into their eyes, Rem would slap Subaru a few more times. Subaru, wake up, wake up, wake up! Are you alive? Did you die? Amelia would also be worried, with Ryuzu having stated that anyone who didn't have the qualification to enter the trial would die by entering the witch's tomb, which was true. However, little did they know that Subaru had the qualification to actually take the trials. Subaru would grab Rem's hand, telling her to stop smacking him. He's awake, as he pulled himself up, saying that he had been teleported. What happened to them? With Amelia and Rem saying that there was this weird light coming from the pendant that Subaru had, and when he went to go and throw it away, he'd been teleported. Once they made it further into the sanctuary, the leader of the sanctuary, someone with magenta hair and pink eyes, would have told them where he would have been. They were just relieved that he had not rolled his way into the tomb and inadvertently kill himself while he was passed out. Subaru would gulp, saying, "That bad?" remembering when he had walked into the tomb earlier. Subaru's bigger concern would be what was going on with Sukuna. Why hadn't he taken over his body when Subaru's soul was gone? And that's when it hits him. Suddenly, he'd feel a wave of resistance as he could hear Sukuna enter back into his body. What? Subaru would then close his eyes, looking into his soul space, as he then sees Sukuna would be asleep. What? Did she do this? He'd think of the silver-haired witch. Well, she claimed to be a witch. She didn't seem that scary to me, Subaru would say. Subaru would then walk over to Sukuna, kicking him in the side. "Hey, slacker, wake up. You enjoying your nap?" Sukuna would open his eyes as he then starts moving around. What? As Sukuna would realize that he had magic invoked on him as he punches the ground. Damn it! In his mind, he'd be thinking that he needs more fingers. He hates when that stupid... Wait. No, this was something else. Sukuna would realize that this wasn't returned by death. This was not the power that Satella had inflicted upon Subaru's soul. This was something else. Another power, not quite as great, maybe worth about 10 of his fingers, which was still a substantial amount higher than he had right now. At least that's how he would measure her, or whatever it was. Sukuna would be ridiculously embarrassed. Back in his high time, he had been the one terrifying women and children, not being abused by women in his sleep. That was his job. Anyway, Amelia had decided to take the trials. She would begin taking them the next night. Everyone in the village rooting for her. Now, as we know, the first trial is something that Amelia would take many, many episodes to overcome, and just like the original timeline, that's the case here as well. Subaru would look up and suddenly see a great light come out of the graveyard. Wondering if that's a sign that Amelia had passed the trials, he would run over to the graveyard to greet her, and Amelia wouldn't be there. Subaru would rush into the graveyard to try and find her, and as he runs into the site, Subaru's mind would start to flicker. Sukuna! What's happening? Sukuna would be wandering around as well, not knowing what's going on. He hadn't seen any magic in this world like this before. It appears we're going back, Sukuna would say. Back to our home. And Subaru would open his eyes. Where am I? Subaru would look around as he finally sees a puddle of water running over to it. Looking down at his small hands. Is this? Subaru would look into the puddle, seeing himself, as he turns around with his friends now calling out to him. Let's go into the forest and play. Subaru would turn, saying, coming, as he runs off. Sukuna would be watching silently, as he and Subaru both know where they're going. They're going to back then. Subaru, running off into the forest, would relive his life, as his friend would die in his hands, in his arms. Subaru's only option at that time once again taking place, as Subaru is forced to consume Sukuna's finger, awakening the power of cursed energy and the demon. This will be the first time that Subaru actually has seen what Sukuna did, since he went unconscious when he had consumed the finger the first time. But this time, Subaru could see what was going on. He'd be horrified. His other friends had luckily run off in time, with just him being the last one there. But the cursed spirits that had been left behind, and more importantly, his friend's body, were completely mutilated. Young Subaru rips his friend in half, throwing the body around laughing as the black markings of Sukuna's vessel envelop him. Traits of Sukuna would begin to grow on Subaru's body as he developed the 4 eyes like how Itadori Yuji had in Jujutsu Kaisen, as well as his fingers growing long with long nails like knives at the end. Subaru Sukuna would then turn around at the cursed spirits who had infuriated him and also, thankfully, brought him back. "Finally," Sukuna would say in a deep tone, "I'm returned to the world. It appears there's no Jujutsu sorcerers around here either. Perfect." Sukuna would rip the cursed spirits into pieces, disposing of all the evidence so that Jujutsu Tai would not find out that Subaru had become his vessel. Now, after this, he'd wait. Sukuna going back into hiding for a couple years until Subaru was a little bit older. Subaru remembering all of this, as Sukuna had become his imaginary friend at the time. Sukuna slowly building his way into Subaru's life, trying to take over his body. Sukuna's goal behind this was waiting until Subaru's body had become more suitable for combat. Currently, right now, any A-grade Jujutsu sorcerer could probably take them down. While Subaru is actually, in the original ReZero timeline, extraordinarily strong and powerful for a human of our world, it's been calculated that he is at least as strong as someone like Bruce Lee, which is impressive. He still is nothing compared to someone like Itadori Yuji or any superhumans. So naturally, Sukuna would try to have avoided any Jutsu sorcerers hiding his presence. Moving through Subaru's history, Subaru would blink, and now he's suddenly older. Throughout all those years, Sukuna had never made a move to try and gather more fingers for one simple reason, because Subaru had an impact on him as well. We see a small memory of Subaru and Sukuna watching together one of Subaru's first anime, and this would be something that Sukuna would actually be interested in, surprisingly. "It doesn't look like that," he'd say, as he sees some blonde-haired man rip off someone's arm. If he really had enough physical strength to blow off that person's arm, there'd be bones coming in with it too. Trust me, I know. This show's so unrealistic. They can fly, and they get stronger just by screaming? I wish I had that luxury. "Would you just be quiet?" Subaru would say. "I'm trying to enjoy this." Sukuna would grumble, since he couldn't take over Subaru's body at this point. He would just humbly watch along. And this is where, throughout the years, Sukuna would slowly deteriorate away from his goal and become an anime manga addict. Meanwhile, as for Subaru, Subaru became egotistical, just as he said and told Ram a few parts ago, back during Season 1. Sukuna's power became a drug for Subaru, something he relied on heavily. Subaru, in school sports tournaments, anytime he had any menial challenge, would dig into Sukuna's power, proving that he was the strongest. And it's this childish mindset that would screw Subaru over once he had been teleported to ReZero. Now we're getting closer to the event itself, the teleport. It seems like any ordinary day. Subaru is going to go to school, have no issues, come home, enjoy his life. As he goes out, his mom wishes him a good day, and Subaru turns around, realizing this was the last day he had seen his mother. Subaru would turn back and give her a hug, as he'd break down crying, saying he doesn't want to go to school today. This was shocking, something that Subaru had never done before. "Honey, what's wrong?" his mother would say, as Subaru would look up to her, saying that, I just want to spend the day here." Sukuna would make a t sound. "It's not going to change anything. This is some sort of illusion. I'm sure of it." Subaru would bite his teeth. I have the chance to talk to them more. This might be my only chance ever. I need to apologize at the very least. I want them to know that I've changed," Subaru would say. His father would come out asking what's going on. Subaru's dad being just as strong and buff and everything Subaru in the original timeline had wanted to be, and here who he was. "Dad, can I stay home from school today?" "Why, are you feeling sick?" "No, Yeah, I'm not feeling so great today. That's all. The parents would look at each other as his father would nod, saying, Subaru, let's go for a walk. Subaru and his dad would go down for a walk at a park, everything feeling bubbly and bright. This being the last day that Subaru would see Japan, the world he thought he would have been a god of. Of course, you have to remember, Subaru was never aware of anyone named Satoru Gojo in the same country he was in. But aside from that, Subaru's dad would talk to him asking what's really wrong. Subaru has never done this before, he's always been a good kid. Subaru would bite his teeth. Dad, do you remember Toichi? Huh? What's bringing this on? That friend of yours, he passed away a long time ago. It was a terrible accident. Some wild animal had ripped him to shreds. Luckily, you guys were okay, but man, I don't know what I would have done with myself if that had been you, Subaru. Subaru closes his eyes hard as he looks up and says, Dad, it was me. I'm the reason he died. His father would turn to look at him as Subaru would explain everything. I never told you and Mom, but ever since that day, ever since then, I've heard his voice inside my head, and I've seen monsters for my entire life, and all I did was run away so that I could keep myself safe. That's why I had to tell you. I know you might not believe me, and I know it sounds crazy, but it's the truth. He's not gonna believe you. You sound crazy, and you're sure as hell wrong if you think I'm gonna show myself to this guy right now. Besides, he's not even real. This is all you playing a house with your imagination, Subaru. They're never gonna know. They'll never know what you did. Subarashi. Subaru's dad would place his hand on his son's shoulder. And he looks into his eyes and he says, Son, I believe you. Subaru would feel a warm light, something like he had never seen before. You really do? He'd pat his son on the back, saying, It'd be pretty arrogant to say I know everything about the world. I had no idea what happened to you, honestly. Ever since that day, you never talked about it. You never cried. I always wondered what happened. I couldn't bring it up, though, because I didn't want to upset you. Neither of us knew what to do. And you became even more confident. It was great. We just wanted you to be happy. That's all. I know you really felt like I cast a large shadow over you. But honestly, Subaru, you became your own man. And I don't really care what this Sukuna guy has ever done, but it's what you've chosen to do. And if you really feel bad about not fighting those monsters, then you could always start now, he'd say, giving a fist bump to his son. Now, I'm gonna get going. I think you have somewhere to be, he'd say. His father would stand up, walking off into the mist, as Subaru knows this is the last time that he'd see his father. Tears streaming down his face, Subaru would say, Thanks, Dad. Subaru's father would disappear as Subaru finishes the last of his popsicle, walking towards the train station, heading towards that forest. As he reaches towards the tracks, there she'd be. His mother. Subaru, she'd say, where do you think you're going? I thought you and your father were going for a walk. Dad headed home, Subaru would say. Well, I figured where you were going you might need this, she'd say, as she said that he forgot his lunch, handing him his bag. Son, me and your father are both very proud of you, and no matter what happens, I just want you to know that Subaru would grab his mother in an embracing hug as he just stands there silently, thinking about everything he's been through up to this point. All the people he met, all the people who supported him along the way. Amelia, Rem, Rom, Roswell, Felt, the Arlem villagers. So many people had believed in him. And he'd clench his fist. I won't let these curses stop me, he'd say. His mother would grab his face, she says, Good. As she would kiss Subaru on the forehead and begin walking away. Subaru would turn, walking straight forward, as she would turn back saying, Itterashai, telling him to be safe. Subaru would never return home. Subaru had never returned home since he had teleported that day. As Subaru would find himself in that forest, where he'd see the bloodied, mangled corpse of his friend, sitting by a tree reading a book would be an enchanting woman with white silver hair. He almost called out her name as Amelia before he noticed her ears. She would have nice circular silver glasses on and a sun hat, as her white dress would have splatters of blood on it. She would pull her head out of the book as Subaru realizes, it's you. And also she looks hot in a sundress, Sukuna would say. Yeah, what he said. Why, thank you, boys, she'd say. Well, it's certainly been interesting seeing this history of this other world. Honestly, I'm impressed. Your memories, so much knowledge and information that I seek. Honestly, I really wish I could just dig in there and get it all out, she'd say. You know, that sounds kind of kinky, but I'm not really into that, Subaru would then reply. And besides, I've already got a beautiful girlfriend waiting for me back home, so I'd like if we could get out of here. All of that bravado like usual. I guess this trial really had no effect on you at all, huh? Maybe you are just a coldless monster like the one inside you. Well, either way, boys, I hope you enjoyed that trip down memory lane. You've passed your first trial, being able to overcome this. Gesturing to the flesh and bones of this child. The child who had started Subaru down this path to begin with. Echidna would say, are you really sure you're over it? Are you certain that you deserve what you've had up to this point? You're sure you're not going to change and just become a raging monster? Not like you haven't done that before. Subaru would keep his cool as he closes his eyes, saying, I'm ready to embrace whatever you have to throw at me. Witch of Greed. And also, I'm probably going to forget this since I forgot our last meeting anyway. But, Sukuna, you'll remind me, right? Yeah, no chance of that, Sukuna would say. Oh, come on, for old time's sake. Subaru would suddenly wake up as he had completed the trial, now turning to see Amelia on the ground unconscious. Amelia, she didn't pass the trial. Amelia would be shaking and crying. She'd be struggling within her dream. Subaru would then quickly jostle her, trying to wake her up, but even when she was awake, she would still seem shaken, as she needs Subaru to help her stand. What happened in there? Amelia's eyes would look up to Subaru, and all Subaru would see would be fear. If you guys want to see the next part for What If Subaru was Sukuna's vessel, I hope you guys enjoying this being the beginning of really getting into Arc 4, the Everlasting Contract section of ReZero. We have approximately 3 to 4 episodes left, that being the finale to the series, and unless we want to go into the light novels, which in that case we have a lot more. I'll probably be hosting a poll on my communities tab if you guys want that. I need to start planning now so I can read to be able to write scripts for the story. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this part, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Next video coming out will be What If Asta was Meliodas' son, and then after that, I'm going to be having a new My Hero Academia What If coming out, and also have a video in the work coming called The Peak of Dragon Ball. Once summer hits, I'll be trying to get back to posting way more often, but I'm going to be trying to start now because, no, I'm not going to be trying, I'm going to be doing it now because I really am not a fan of these long hiatuses, and I'm trying to get back on a schedule and get that discipline. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.